Welcome to this presentation of the Paper Street Podcast. Welcome to Late to the Party, a program on the Paper Street Pictures Podcast Network. Your hosts for the following are myself, Shawn Talley, and joining me, as he traditionally does, a fellow member of the Paper Street Pictures production team, a man I welcome to Fright Night. For real. He is Mr. Cameron Burns, which, if I may, is a terrible name for a vampire.
Yeah, we'll work on that. I need to come up with a cool vampire name.
That's more of a line from the remake. Jerry, that's a terrible name for a vampire.
Oh, I love the remake. Sorry, we're putting the cart before the horse here. But yeah, no, I'm excited for another episode. They haven't canned us. We're still on the air, still going strong.
Yes,
thankfully there is no they. We kind of are the they, so there's no one to can us really. But the people don't need to know that.
It's true. So we are doing a movie this week that is very much a part of my DNA in the vein of like the Terminator, Beetlejuice, The Burbs, all those kind of late 80s, mid to late 80s, premium cable staples. But I credit this movie for a few things. It's kind of a gateway horror movie for a lot of folks because it's a bit of a horror comedy that kind of eases you in. But it certainly helped get my love of horror jump-started early on, along with Nightmare on Elm Street and some other things. But I told Cameron early on, too, Fright Night was one of the 5 or 6 movies that when we hatched this podcast idea, I was hoping we'd find somebody who had not seen. So yes, Fright Night 85 being the movie in question.
Yes, which is not as big a part of my DNA as yours, but I did really like it as a youth, and I've seen it a handful of times since. So I'm excited to give it another look. It's been a hot minute since I've seen it. I've seen the remake more recently than I have seen this one, so I'll be excited to go back and give it a look.
Yeah, I'll be interested to hear how you take to it if it's not as much, in your brain, but it's one I've even talked about this on a previous podcast, not this show, but I was a guest on the Terror Table, a horror podcast hosted by Paper Street supporters and pals Mitch Oliver and Boozy, who I'm realizing now as I say it, I don't actually know Boozy's whole name or real name. They had me on to talk about a movie, and that's the movie I took with me and explained. So I know some tidbits in the back of my brain that I'm able to share again. So deja vu if anybody happened to hear that episode.
Yeah, if you've heard that episode, just go ahead and turn this one off because you can get a lot of the same. So don't bother. You're welcome.
Little teasers, but somehow Lyle and Eric Menendez's name will come up later.
Yeah, so you're not going to want to miss that. That didn't happen on Boozy's episode, did it?
No, I brought it up there too.
Oh, damn it. Boozy, you've thought of everything. You win this round. So do we want to explain to the people what we're doing here? I mean,
I think you do. You've done it a few times. You should have the spiel memorized.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Let the folks know who might have never listened what this show is exactly.
If you've never listened, finally you're here and you've made a great choice because this is going to be a doozy of an episode. But yeah, what we do is myself and Shawn, we reach out to a doozy. For Boozy's doozy. Yeah, we'll work on that. We reach out to some people that we love, some people that we want to talk to, that we think are smart film goers. And we say, hey, what is a big movie in the zeitgeist that you've never seen? What's that movie that when people find out that you haven't seen it, they go, what? And inevitably people always have them, except for the one or two ginormous film nerds, just because there's just not enough time in the day, right? And so we pick a movie and then we bring them on, we talk to them about it, then we go off and watch it. Then for the first time, Shawn and I usually for the 500th time, and then we come back together and we talk about what they thought and whether it was what they thought it was going to be, and just fun facts about it. And hopefully you enjoy that trip down memory lane and getting people's kind of first time takes, and that's kind of what we're doing here.
Indeed, what Cameron said. In this go-round, we actually have a friend of Paper Street as well, Danielle Ploeger, a fine actor who we will pitch to in a moment here and ask her why she has never seen the 1985 film Fright Night. So stay tuned. And joining us for this installment, she is an actor who's appeared in films including Mickey Reese's Climate of the Hunter and Country Gold, as well as Paper Street's own The Pale Door. And soon you will see her steal the show in Maxwell Nalavinsky's insane and amazing film Rats. She is Danielle Evon Ploeger. Danielle, thank you so much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Danielle, you're here to class this joint up. We don't usually have such prestigious guests, so just, play nice with us. We're still ironing out the kinks of this thing. So
hey, listen. As soon as you see Rats, you'll know that I am not a classy gal. So
I mean,
yeah.
Let's say one more thing about our guest Danielle. She has never seen the 1985 film Fright Night.
No.
How dare you?
How dare?
So Danielle, I guess my first question is what, why, how?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Shame, right?
Yeah. So
no, that's not what we're doing. Actually,
no, we're not here.
No, we're not shaming.
Yes,
we're
yes
inviting you to the party, late as you may be.
That was more of a yes and.
Right.
Like,
yes,
I guess is this? So I know you're a big film fan. I follow your Twitters and your Instagrams, and you're a big film person. Is horror your genre? Is this movie a little too early for you in 1985? Like, is there kind of let's dig in and figure out the why on how you missed this one? Like, did you come up in that area where you were watching Lost Boys and Monster Squad and some of the other movies like this, or were you busy watching like Rainey or Warner Fassbender movies as a child and you never got around to this kind of?
I was definitely a Rainey Warner Fassbender kid and missed this like genre of movie. And so I think I'm playing a lot of catch up in this genre of film. And like, I also like, let me just preface it with like, my mom took me to see my first like real horror movie in theaters whenever she took me to see The Sixth Sense. And she leans over during the bike scene and she's just like, am I a bad mom? And I was just like, I mean, mind you, I'm like 10 or 11. And she's just like, am I a bad mom? And I was like, well, I mean, we're here now. So like,
I like that you didn't immediately say no. You were like, what?
Yeah, I mean, we're in it to win it, Devana. So like, yeah, no, we're good. But yeah, like, so I definitely didn't grow up on horror. I grew up on like very different genre films, but not horror specifically, and definitely not like movies like Fright Night or like Monster Squad. So yeah, I just missed a lot of them. And then whenever you guys sent me this list, I was like, oh, I have done my homework and I've caught up on a lot of them, but this one I have not seen. So here we are.
So in catching up, where have you landed on movies like this? Like, is this, I assume you've gone back and watched like Lost Boys and stuff like that, or at least, Goonies, which isn't horror, but like, where do you kind of land on this subgenre, this kind of coming of age, preferably horror? Like, so you're into that.
I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think it's like this, like, had I seen this kind of movie whenever I was a kid, I would have been hooked because it's the kind of movie that I'm just like, oh, like it hits all the boxes for me. It's like coming of age. It's like kids growing up. It's the things that scare you whenever you're a kid. And they're also movies that you can watch forever, right? Like there are things that scare you when you're a kid. There are things that are still scary when you're an adult, and they're fun. They're fun movies. So yeah, they're everlasting. I'm stoked. I'm really stoked.
I have a few follow-ups that I can't fully move away from. Are your parents the ones who got you into the Fassbender, Herzog, like really avant-garde stuff?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, yeah.
I'm just wondering if your mom looked over at you during the dead bike kid scene and was like, am I a bad mom because I took you to too mainstream of a film?
Kind of, yeah.
And then follow up, at the end of the movie, did you look over and she wasn't there?
Oh, God. So yeah,
Cameron, she's been dead the whole time.
Oh my God, spoilers, Shawn. We haven't even done Sixth Sense yet.
Yeah, no, whoa.
Great. Now I know everything.
Yeah, my parents definitely watched like very avant-garde films. I remember my dad, like, so for case in point, my dad's like favorite film is The Man from Snowy River. And I'm just like, okay, cool. I've seen that movie like 45 times. So that movie is not maybe something that everyone has seen. Also, Carlito's Way is also his other favorite movie.
So good.
So
as we discussed on the last episode, which I'm sure you didn't listen to, Danielle, because you're busy. But as we discussed on the last episode, my dad's favorite movie was Hoosiers. So you can tell we grew up in two different kinds of households.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we did. But also, like, my mom was the first person to show me Fear and Loathing. Like, I don't know. Oh. There's a lot of like things about movies and music in particular that my parents were just like, yeah, no, you're going to grow up differently. Because I was an only child. And so I grew up fast and I grew up different. And my parents were just like, yeah, man, like you're going to watch stuff that other kids don't watch. And so, yeah.
Your parents sound awesome.
They're
maybe my parents.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Well, in a bear with me while I stretch this into a segue, but in a Bat Country vein, we are talking about vampires. And yes, I have one other follow up before we move on. Is have you seen the remake by chance that came out in 2010 or 2011?
No.
Okay, just curious.
So what do you know? First of all, you don't usually have to explain that you're making a transition, Shawn, if you're making a transition.
I just wanted to say Bat Country.
Okay, well, that's fair. So the other question we kind of always ask in this pre-record before we actually go off and watch the movie is, do you feel like you have a pretty good idea of what this movie is at this point through just like cultural osmosis, or maybe you did a little research on the come up here? But do you feel like outside of like the general genre that you kind of know what the movie is and what you're kind of getting into?
So I do, based on what y'all have said, but I don't research movies before I go into them. I would rather be like blindsided.
Okay.
So I didn't look at anything about this movie before I got on this podcast.
No, so this could be like
watching this cold is going to be a good thing, I think.
So this could be a movie about football for all you know.
Sure. Yeah. Friday night, Fright Nights.
Ooh, I like that. That's Shawn, write that down. We're going to make that a paper.
Friday Night Lights.
Right.
The mashup we didn't know we needed.
That's right. I'm ready.
Well, no, she knows vampires. And again, we're comp movies you mentioned being Lost Boys and Monster Squad are pretty good comps because it was in that 80s vein of like some kids that happen to be a little self-aware of what was going on and aware of tropes of monsters. That's all we'll say. We won't spoil anything further.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I do think, we know you're a wild one as much as you claim not to be, but this has a lot of the 80s, like the sex and the sleaze and the stuff that a lot of modern remakes and a lot of modern movies just don't have at all. So I think you'll find some charms in the goofy 80s and stuff. But it's got some underrated effects and vampire stuff in it too.
I have a good feeling here. I have a good feeling that Danielle's going to like this.
I mean, vampires, I'm in.
She's in. She loves vampires. What's not to love?
What's not to love about vampires?
Exactly, Shawn.
No, I agree. I think it's one of those genres that even like the lower tier ones are still watchable. There's not a bunch of vampire movies that you outright think are just terrible.
No.
I've seen every Twilight movie. Let's just get that out there.
I have too. I think they're all phenomenal.
I wouldn't go so far as to say phenomenal, but I don't hate them. My girlfriend was
I'll throw hands.
Back before Swifties existed, there were Twilight fans. And so
I've read all of the Twilight books and I was there whenever the books got released at midnight. So
are you team Edward or team Jacob?
Oh, Edward.
Of course. He's beautiful.
I'm a vampire fan.
It's true. Jacob's a werewolf. Another spoiler. Boy, if you haven't seen The Sixth Sense and Twilight, you just had a whole
really
spoiler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Their jorts shatter when they turn into giant wolves, yet they come back out of the woods in new jorts. That's
really true.
I love that was the sticking point of the movie for you. Is like, how do those jorts get back?
You see the denim like literally ripped to shreds when they transform, and then they always come back out of the woods. So like, there's clearly a little hidden drawer in the tree somewhere.
There's a jorts fairy in the.
There you go. I mean, that's a scare package segment right there, Shawn.
Mm-hmm.
How do they get those jorts back on? They run in there and it's like a wardrobe change at the Oscars. They have to like switch jorts again.
Yep.
Well, as we've already gone way too far into Twilight, but I will say to Danielle, just on the way out of here, this is Twilight, except they actually do have some sex in the movie. So
great, I love
not
that.
just oppressed.
Wait, they had sex in Twilight. That's how Renesmee was born.
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you?
Isn't it? Am I wrong, Danielle?
Even Danielle's like,
yeah, no, you're not wrong. I was waiting for it for like 17 books or whatever it is, and it never really comes.
Danielle's pissed. She's pissed.
Yeah, it was bullshit. And not bullshit, but
this is going to be a fun episode, Shawn.
Well, I'm not going to say much more about the movie, although I do prefer to all the Twilight films.
Yes.
I mean,
and a good number of other vampire movies. But yes, we think we should send Danielle on her way and let her watch this movie. And then we will all reconvene on the other side to get her fresh thoughts on it and a whole bunch more.
I'm excited. I'm excited for Danielle to see this.
Hell yeah.
Hey there, welcome back. What was mere seconds for you, the listener, was a good deal. More for us, I think a literal month we talked about. When we last left off, our guest, Danielle Ploeger, had not seen Fright Night. She was late to the party, but at least she made it, and we welcome her back, a more cultured individual, a more learned film viewer, someone who's now seen the 1985 film Fright Night. I think after the initial talk with the Herzog and Fassbender, we realized we asked her to slum it with this mainstream dreck. But Danielle, are you, number one, ready to do battle with the undead, and number two, feeling any or all of those aforementioned things?
Oh, yeah. I'm super ready to battle. Also, Roddy McDowall, let's just give him a fucking round of applause.
So you're a Roddy McDowall person. Like, he is not my MVP of this movie, but
I mean,
I'm excited that you think so.
I don't know if he's the MVP of the movie, but like, you got to give him his props. You got to give him his props where he deserves them.
I mean, he is quite funny in that role. He's
hilarious.
He is very good. So, Danielle, what are your kind of 10,000 foot view thoughts on the movie? Did you dig it? Was it what you thought it was going to be?
It was not what I thought it was going to be, but I don't know if I had a very good expectation of what I thought it was going to be, but no, it wasn't. And also, it was amazing and hilarious. Only hilarious in that I wasn't involved in that kind of situation.
It wasn't hilarious to them.
No. Especially whenever Evil comes out from under the covers with that fucking yarn wig thing.
His mop top is looking like Raggedy Ann.
That was something. But yeah, I think I would be a vampire and not a vampire slayer.
I could see that.
I think that's the side of the vampire movie that I would be on. The
thing that I like about this movie so much is that no matter how hardcore you're vampire battling, it's important to take time out to dance.
Always.
And it's the one thing both sides can agree on is that we have to stop and we have to dance. And if that means our main character's on the phone for, 45 minutes talking to nobody, then that's okay. Because that scene just drags on forever. Yeah. And they just keep dancing. It like one of those dance competitions on Golden Girls where like the last group standing wins a prize.
Yeah.
Or was time slowing down for Amy's character because she was kind of getting glammed by him?
Well, yeah.
I mean, sure, if you want to take it literally. We're trying to have a good time here, Shawn.
Oh, sorry about that.
I didn't. This is one of this is so. To be fair, to set the stage, this is a bigger Shawn movie than it is a Cameron movie. Like I like Fright Night, but it wasn't one of those like in my rotations in the same way that I believe it was for Shawn growing up.
Yeah, definitely part of my DNA. One of those kind of movies that mid '80s premium cable staples that I watched many, many times.
Yeah.
So watching it this time, I couldn't shake the fact that Chris Sarandon would have been an amazing Patrick Bateman if they made that movie when the book came out.
Yes.
That's all I got. I thought of that while I was watching, and I just wanted to say that to someone out loud. Now we can talk about the movie again. Sorry, I think I tangented there. Is that what the kids call it?
No, we're going to bounce around. So speaking of that, there's a big topic of debate with Chris Sarandon. So one, I thought for many years he was siblings to Susan Sarandon. Turns out I Googled many years ago, they're actually, she's his ex-spouse and she kept the name professionally, which is an interesting tidbit. But have you seen Princess Bride, Danielle?
Yes.
Okay, most humans have, even those who are raised on Fassbender. But a lot of folks can't shake the weaselly Prince Humperdinck out of him. Like that's who he's tied to in so many people's minds. But there's a very big debate on whether he works as like a sex symbol. Was he hot or not to you in this movie as Vampire Jerry?
Oh no, he was hot.
Yeah, right. Like I thought he was hot. I didn't know there was this is like that Office episode with Hilary Swank. Like I didn't know there was a debate that Chris Sarandon was hot.
There's been a few. It seems like a gender divide. It seems like a few guys don't get it, but every woman I talk to is like, no, he has got it going on in this movie.
Guys don't decide. Guys are
and even Cameron said he could be Patrick Bateman. So to your point, yes, I think Cameron's on the right side of history with this.
Yeah,
100%. There's no debate. He is very, very, very hot. Princess Bride or no Princess Bride.
He literally took the guy's girlfriend in the movie and just claimed her.
Yeah.
Granted, he's also older and has like a steady job probably. So like, high school girls are into older guys a lot of the times. But still, he just kind of decided that they were together and then they were together. That's the thing hot guys do, I'm told.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see why she wouldn't go with him. I just logistically speaking, I don't see anything that would tie her to. I can't remember
Charlie Brewster's.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was a bit of a damp rag. I agree with you. He was kind of a shitty boyfriend in the beginning, and then Chris Sarandon rolls in and it's just like, fuck it, like let's risk it all.
Just the way that the movie started, whenever he was so like, all I ever hear from you, we've been going together for a year now, and all I ever hear from you is, oh, I don't want to, Charlie. And like that attitude coming from a man, I know that it was made in the 80s, and like I'm like just this raging feminist or whatever, but like that attitude, I'm just like, I wanted to just reach through the screen and shake him.
Well, and then the movie doubles down and she's like, all right, cool, let's do it. And he's like, nah.
I know.
Over. It's just like, I don't know what you want, Charlie. What are you doing? Like, come on, bud.
Yeah. He did not start off.
He lost Danielle in the first 5 minutes.
He literally.
No, it's true. He's a little pilly before the vampire reveal when he understands his vampires. You kind of understand he's a pill, a wet blanket after that. But yeah, he doesn't actually start off on the right foot either.
Honestly,
so Danielle's team vampire is what I'm learning.
If I am team vampire, I'm almost always team vampire. But like, had he told me, oh, I saw them carrying a body, I would have been like, you can go to Sonic and get an ocean water. Like, I don't care what you do with the rest of your life. Like, I literally, vampires are welcome.
It would have been a short movie if you were in this movie because you'd have just walked next door and been like,
I just love what a specific instruction she gave just now.
An ocean water, which does sound great right now.
From Sonic.
Yeah.
From Sonic, which I don't think existed back in whatever year, 1980 something this came out.
Probably not, but like, he needed to calm down.
Yeah, he was a lot. And then he was just so, he was just so sure they were vampires so quickly. Like, he was like, hey, these guys are carrying something that looks like a coffin. Guess he's a vampire. It's like, or he sells coffins. Like, do some research, bro.
Yeah.
He saw him bite the lady in the window as well. That is a big checklist thing.
We can see what team Shawn's on here, Danielle. We can see what team Shawn's on.
No.
That's true. That's
not
true.
Team vampire.
I am not team Charlie Brewster.
Well, it sounds like it.
I'm only team William Ragsdale when it came to Herman's Head.
I loved Herman's Head as a kid. I used to love Herman. It was basically Inside Out before Inside Out.
100%, yeah.
This episode's going to jump around like crazy. I can already tell.
It is.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. But yes, Herman's Head was a great. So go ahead, Shawn. Get us back on track.
Going back to Danielle saying it wasn't quite what she expected. Once it kind of settled in, like, did you sound like you went along for the ride? Anything in particular you were thinking it might be, or where it was going?
No, but like definitely whenever Evil came in, I was just like, okay, hard left turn. This is a lot. I don't know. Now I really don't know what we're in for. But I'm definitely here for it. Whenever a character like that comes in, I'm just like, okay, let's fucking go.
Evil Ed gave what I call big, wacky sitcom sidekick energy. Like 100%. He was every bit Skippy from Family Ties, or like Boner from Growing Pains, or Waldo Faldo from Family Matters. He just came in like he knew the assignment, and he was like Kirk Cameron's wacky buddy. And he was not in the same movie as everybody else, but It didn't matter because he thought he was in a sitcom, and it totally plays for me.
It works because honestly, like everything that he did, I was just like, yes. Honestly, like every choice that you made worked, and I believed it, and I don't care that it didn't match the rest of the movie.
Well, I think the rest of the movie should have matched him, is where I'm at.
Well, that's fair. Yeah.
I mean, that character was he was like fucking Kramer from Seinfeld, just coming with big wacky energy. And like, I was here for it. I don't know, like, he was just like, I never kind of knew what team he was on, or like where he stood on things, or whether he ever believed it. Like, he's
like a guy whose name should be Chaz. You know?
I will say, I don't disagree with you. It's always been a point of contention is that kid's performance and the wackiness of him. But part of it, I mean, there's queer subtext and readings on this film we can talk about over the decades, but it sort of becomes tragic when he does.
Ed?
Yeah, no, Ed as well. Yes. So Jerry and Billy's relationship, a lot of people read into, of course, but Evil Ed actually being in the closet, because when he confronts him in that alleyway and gives him that speech, that's very much that like, hey, I understand people aren't like you and you're not like people. It's like there's a lot of that going on. That part of his big bluster was that he was in the closet.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not pick up on that.
But it's a little tragic that the turn for him is that he suddenly is not that psycho little sidekick anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, then he was a wolf. Like, didn't see that coming. Well, did you think he was going to be a wolf, Danielle?
Has to be. Well, right?
I mean, sure. In keeping with Twilight, I guess we have to have a wolf.
Well, there's people who say like he wasn't actually a werewolf. It was more the way vampires can turn into either bats or mist or wolves. And Roddy McDowall happened to stab him, and he just kind of went back to human.
Wait, hold on. Can vampires become wolves? Is that a thing?
I mean, every single story has different rules, right?
I guess.
Well, in every vampire story, there has to be a wolf. And in this one, it just so happens that someone had to turn into a wolf and then melt into a green pile of whatever the fuck that was.
Goo. And then the neighbor, I like that the neighbor guy became goo and then became sand? ?
Well, yes.
Didn't see that coming. I'm not sure why he was sand.
I don't
know what else got to be sand. Shawn, why you're the Fright Night enthusiast. Why did that guy become sand?
So yeah, there's still debate to this day of what he is. Is he just a familiar? Probably not, because he got shot and stood back up and then turned into goo and sand. So a lot of people say maybe he's a ghoul, maybe he's a half vampire. Either way, he's been around with Jerry long enough that he's something, not human.
I just like that Evil was like turned into goo. Okay, went from his former self, turned into a wolf, then turned into goo, and then turned back into himself.
And then his little scar on his forehead went away magically.
And the scar on his forehead went away, and he literally became the like most pure version of himself again before he died.
Good Ed.
Good Ed. Yeah, regular.
Yeah, just regular. Good Ed.
It's just I always thought the werewolves were like the other team. Maybe I've seen too many Twilight movies, but I always thought the werewolves were like the other team. I didn't think they were like lumped in with the vampires. It just gets a little messy for me. I don't know. Like, I'm not vampires isn't like my biggest genre, so I don't know all the rules, but like I don't think I've ever seen a vampire. It felt to me like we were coming off American Werewolf and some of those movies, and they were like, well, we got to have a changing scene, and you have to have somebody become a werewolf.
Well, I think that you do have to have somebody like change, but also like it's not necessarily that person has to go, or that creature or whoever, that entity has to go from like vampire to werewolf to whatever, but it has to at least be able to like morph from one thing to the next thing, right?
Sure. I'm here for that.
Yeah, there's a few different variations of Jerry himself when he's transforming, and then goes full fruit bat, as we know.
But by the way, that is, if you were paying close attention, that is why he kept eating apples, because he is part fruit bat.
Oh,
I read that in the trivia on IMDb.
Yeah, I think I saw the same thing. That was a Chris Sarandon decision, right? Yeah. Like I'm gonna eat apple the whole movie. But Cameron, relevant to Interest of Paper Street possibly, but Steve Johnson, the famous effects folks behind Ghostbusters as well. Richard Edlund was the head of effects. He came off of Ghostbusters and had a lot of the matte paintings and things like that in the movie they employed that they learned how to do expensively on Ghostbusters. They knew how to do cheaper for this movie. But then, Steve Johnson created a lot of the prosthetics. And I do think that's an underrated wolf VFX on him when he is transforming back on the Evil Ed.
No, it looks great. I mean, all the effects in the movie look really good. Like,
I thought they were excellent.
Also, you know what I love? Sorry, now Danielle's made me tangent all the time now. This is all Danielle's fault. I just want that on the record. You know what else I loved? I loved when the opening titles come up and then get fangs. Mm-hmm. I love that. I've always been a fan of that. That plays for me. I'm in for the movie at that point.
Yeah. The moment that I was all the way in was when the pencil went through the guy's hand. And he had long fingernails.
I like the long fingers effect. I think that's an underrated effect.
The long fingers are great. The long fingernails make it.
Yeah, but like I imagine long fingers is hard to do as an effect. and it looks really good in the movie. Like, I don't know. I just, like, it's hard not to see the seams on that. You're so close, but because they couldn't have done it with, back then it had to be, a prosthetic. And it looks really good. Like, I just thought that effect in particular looked really good. But yeah, anytime the hands came out with the long fingers and then the fingernails, you knew shit was about to go down.
Yeah.
Which I kind of respected. But
yeah,
it was, and also, this is one of the first that I can think of. Maybe I don't know the timeline on this, Shawn, and I'm sure you've done more research than me because you're the adult in the room. But is this the first like self-aware meta horror movie? Question mark.
It's certainly one of them in the 80s because everything that we talk about, like Lost Boys, Monster Squad, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, all came after this. So This was one of the early examples of, and this is the same year as the Goonies. And, those are kids that like understood tropes, not necessarily horror tropes and monsters, but like they were kind of self-aware of stories and storytelling and all those kind of rules. And this one certainly played on that. Like, vampires exist as a lore in this world, unlike Walking Dead, where they're like, what are these things? There's no zombies in our world. Like, we don't know what to call them. We'll call them walkers. But yeah, this became its own trope, by the end of the decade.
Well, yeah, and it even used that as like, oh, that doesn't work in this. You thought it would. Like, stuff like that, which I kind of dug. Like, I can't remember, and I'm sure we'll get some sort of email from some nerds out there who tell me there was some movie in the 50s that
can't wait
first. But yeah, it'll probably be Danielle that sends that email.
It will be.
She's like, actually, back in 1952, the German.
I am such a actually person. You have no idea.
I mean, I have a little bit of an idea. You just did it to me.
I know.
And she pushed her glasses up her nose as she did it. I can't believe
she did. She got super serious. Like, if there was a visual to this podcast, you guys would have been like, oh, what?
Wow.
No, we want people to like us. We would all come off terribly.
Yeah, no. Also, I would have to get out of my jammies to do the podcast, which is just never going to happen. So, yeah, I think this one gets, at least in my brain, gets credit for being kind of the first self-aware horror movie. It crawled so Lost Boys could fly.
Yeah, it did.
Cam, to your point about the Fright Night, the fangs coming down, I would say that key art is pretty iconic. Just the logo, like they even use the exact same font for the remake in 2011. But not just that. Iconic one sheet, one of the more iconic one sheets of the 80s when you see it on box art and stuff of the Amy's crazy vampire face in the clouds.
And also it also has not aged. So many posters from the 80s look so of the 80s. The box art and the poster for this movie like looks so good that when I just watched this movie on HBO Max, I wasn't sure if I was clicking on the 2011 one or this one because
so me either, because I turned it on last night and I was just like, oh my God, this is the wrong one. I thought that Cameron said that this was on HBO Max and this is the new one and not the old one. And then I had to go back and look and it literally is. It's like so close because it's, yeah.
It looks so good still. By the way, Danielle, if you like this one, you'll like the 2011 one. It's very good.
Yeah, I'm very excited to watch it.
Got big Colin Farrell energy in it, which is nice. So,
love.
Some would say now there's no argument about him being hot, right, Shawn? That's spoken for. No. Okay, just making sure. None. You're my guy as it pertains to male.
Danielle's like, no, I would take him in full penguin makeup.
Yeah, he's like full penguin. Thing. Thank you.
Yes, Danielle has put an exclamation point on the Colin Farrell discussion for today.
Let's sidebar on that 2011 one real quick. So the cast of that one is fantastic. So Colin Farrell is the vampire, but Anton Yelchin, R.I.P. That guy, we all were fans. Toni Collette plays his mother. David Tennant of Doctor Who fame and other things, Jessica Jones and more. He plays the Peter Vincent. And I will say, if Danielle's not aware, it's not really a spoiler, right away, but they update the story in the locale to Las Vegas, where a lot of people do sleep at night or sleep in the day and work at night.
Yeah.
So David Tennant plays, instead of a creature feature host, he is a Chris Angel type, like macabre horror magician on the strip.
So good.
And it actually works. It all works. So like, there's a few things the original I think does better. There's a few things that the new one, the remake, actually does better too, including having one of the more iconic kill scenes. We won't spoil for you, but
it is one of the very good like modern horror remakes.
I can't wait.
So yeah, we'll bring Danielle back to do another episode of the 2011.
Yeah,
but we don't need to do this. We don't need to do Fright Night 2 or Fright Night 3, do we, Shawn?
Well, yeah. While we're sidebarring, Fright Night 2, which did bring back both Ragsdale and McDowell as vampire hunters. It got hung up in crazy rights issues. The only VHS release ever got out of print quickly. And
I don't think I've ever seen it.
A bootleg. It's available on YouTube in full, but that's about the only place to find it. And I say available in quotes.
It goes like big Saved by the Bell, the college years.
It does. Charlie's in college now, and he runs across a group of lady vampires. Nice. Is all I'll say.
Is it a sorority? Tell me it's a sorority.
It's not quite.
Missed opportunity.
No, not quite.
I know, right?
Not quite.
You'll have to catch it one day.
What does not quite mean to that question?
They're at college. I wouldn't say they're sorority.
They're just like friends who all have pillow fights, or
there's a plot point involved.
Is Charlie still a stick in the mud? Is Charlie still a stick in the mud who's guilting people and having sex with them?
Yeah, Charlie, I feel like sucks in every
Charlie's
universe.
just a wet blanket.
He is a wet blanket, man. He is not good.
But you asked about Fright Night 3, and this is one of my favorite tidbits to tell people. It's so crazy. So Roddy McDowall was eager to bring back director Tom Holland, who we'll talk about, not that Tom Holland, but he was eager to get him back in the franchise, and he had set up a meeting for Holland and himself with Carol Co. Pictures chairman Jose Menendez to discuss making it. And the week of that meeting, Menendez and his wife were murdered by their sons, Lyle and Eric. And Danielle, I'm sure this sounds vaguely familiar.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So the reason this franchise never franchised is because of the Menendez brothers.
The Menendez brothers killed Fright Night 3 and their parents.
And I'm very sad about one of those things.
Ouch. Oh, now you're going to be the one in trouble. Finally, people leave me alone about the submersible.
I'm so, you know what? This is.
I can't tell if Danielle's angry.
This is fucked.
This is fucked. Now I feel like I have to watch that.
The circle of life.
Oh shit! You're the first person to ever sing on this podcast. I think
Danielle's going to be like, "No, I'm watching the Menendez brothers documentary right now.
I'm going to watch it. Now I'm going to watch it.
No, I watched it the other day.
Did you really?
Yes.
How is it?
Fucked.
Yeah,
not enough Fright Night talking it. Also,
there's no Fright Night talking.
I know. Well, no, he was in the business, and he had.
There's other movies that have a similar story.
Fright Night is one of the more notable ones that he had the rights to. And not only did that, derail part 3, but like it's part of why part 2 got just kind of lost and dumped by Carolco's subsidiary, Live Entertainment, which folded, and then who knows who had the rights. That's why it's so hard to find to this day. And again, I think a big reason why this didn't become a bigger franchise, the way Child's Play is still active to this day. The other thing Tom Holland created.
It's true. Tom Holland, so out right now. He's a very underappreciated, I think, a very underappreciated filmmaker. Like Tom Holland, he hits right in my sweet spot. The Child's Play movies I love. He wrote Class of 1984. I love. He directed Thinner, which I fucking love, and I will go to bat for Thinner every chance I get. To me, it's the most underappreciated Stephen King movie. Yeah, it's so good. I think Tom Holland is an underappreciated.
Yeah. He broke out also writing Psycho 2, which is an underrated entry into the franchise.
It's true.
Yep.
It stinks that the poor guy just can't get work nowadays when he's got that resume. But
I don't think Danielle's ever gotten over this Menendez stuff.
I'm really stuck on it. I am really actually having a really tough time with it.
I could see the gears moving in her head just then. And I was like, she's not hearing anything that's coming out of our mouth. She's just thinking about the Menendez brothers.
I am literally just thinking about that. And it's fucking me up.
So here's something else that'll fuck you up.
Great.
Did you know that the original ending for this film called for Peter Vincent to become a vampire on live TV at the end? And I guess that he would have been bit or something, and we didn't know. I'm not sure how they would have accomplished it. But the original, when they're fooling around on the bed again at the end, and they're watching Peter Vincent on television, he would become a vampire live on TV. And that ending was scrapped for the one we know and love with the eyeballs next door, which I'm guessing had nothing to do with the sequel, Shawn. They didn't play the eyeballs.
No, I think
it wasn't like a little girl. There's a sorority house in that house.
More of a tacked on thing at the end there because they shipped it away, and probably because they had an idea for a sequel in their minds. So we can't take out Roddy McDowall that way.
Also, for the record, the house was for sale at the end. By who?
Oh, it went back to the realtors guy.
I guess. I guess. I mean, I'm led to believe this was like a couple days later. I don't know how.
I think it might have been more than that, a few weeks or maybe a few months.
You know, that's fine.
Roddy's back on TV. Peter's back on TV.
Yeah, that's true. We'll go with it. I'm just when I saw the for sale sign, I was like, the
bank was just like, nah.
Roddy is great, and Cameron said he's not who steals the movie for me. So please do tell us, Cameron, who steals the movie for you.
Oh, Evil Ed steals the movie for me. He's the best.
Sure.
Oh yeah, so cool.
We've already been over Evil Ed, but
yeah, we've already talked about it.
I didn't realize that was who you meant. I thought maybe you were going to say Jerry Chris Sarandon or something like that.
No, fuck no. It's Evil Ed.
Not Wet Blanket Charlie.
No, Charlie sucks. I think William Ragsdale in general, I think is a bit of a, let's take out the fact that he's a sexual deviant, like Danielle says. I think William Ragsdale is also just kind of a generic white guy.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have a lot of charisma in the same way that like when you look at like Lost Boys or Goonies and some of the other movies, and then like some of those leads have like real charisma. He's just like generic white guy going through the motions. I don't think William Ragsdale has any like star potential or star power. He was great in Herman's Head, but he was kind of a wet blanket in that too. So yeah, you know, Roddy McDowell's great. Chris Sarandon's great. Amanda Bierce is great, but Evil Ed is who I love just because he's doing his own thing and just not playing by society's rules.
My favorite thing about Roddy McDowell is that his facial like reactions come about 0.7 seconds too late every time.
I think yes. I think that's like maybe a stage thing. I don't know.
I don't know actually what it is.
He's done a ton of movies, so I mean, I noticed that as well. He's like a little slow. Like maybe by that age, he was just a little slower on the uptake.
I don't know. I don't know either. I'm just kind of
still love him.
I do too, and I'm just kind of like, what if Tom Holland was just like, okay, every other actor who's next to him just do it a little bit, just react later. Like, I don't know how to fix that. You know what I mean?
That's so funny. I do feel like it was a choice. I don't think it was him being just an old man at that point. Although he was slowing down, obviously, in the 80s.
He was slowing down, but it was just like, there's so many moments whenever it's like the moment happens and then it's just like, and I'm like, my dog, you have to have known that you're doing that.
Shawn, is it possible that we can set up some sort of like weekly movie watching thing with Danielle where we can just talk about whatever movie we watch? Because Danielle, like I feel like Danielle, you'd be an amazing guest host.
I would love that.
I want to watch movies with Danielle now because she hits to the heart of things. She sees what I see in this world. Also, Roddy McDowell was in Overboard, which might be the most problematic movie ever made.
Oh, there's more problematic movies than that. Not that one's not.
Well, problematic movie of the last like handful, like 25.
Problematic is a wide range.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about like the D.W. Griffith problematic.
Fun fact: they remake that movie just a few years ago, right before the pandemic, and all they did was gender swap it, and it's the same movie. I couldn't believe how it was the exact same film otherwise. But like, that doesn't make it unproblematic.
Yeah. It makes it's like a. Well, now we're equal sort of thing.
They didn't update it in any way other than just swap them. So I will say, this came up on a previous podcast, I feel like, because Roddy McDowell just comes up in my life. But between Planet of the Apes, knocking out the sci-fi genre, Overboard, which I watched a ton as a kid with comedy, and this and horror, like he's been a part of my youth, my upbringing.
Were you not a class of 1984 guy? Was that not in your?
No, I have it. I own it. I've seen it. It just wasn't as much a staple. But like he also voiced Mad Hatter and Batman, the animated series. He's done tons of voiceover, tons of TV work, but. Yeah, his character, was a combo of Peter Cushing and Vincent Price. And Holland even wrote Vincent Price's name as like the ideal person to play this role for obvious reasons, because he is a Vincent Price type. But Roddy's an interesting case, too, because he was one of those guys all through the 50s and 60s who was as close to just being fully out of the closet as you could be in that era. Mm-hmm. He never married, never had kids. But he also never really hid that he was in relationships with people like Montgomery Clift and other sort of out people in the day. But yeah, I only bring that up, too, because Amanda Bierce, who played Amy, she ended up being Marcy Darcy on Married with Children.
Yeah, she came out pretty early.
She came out in 93, which is before that was a big common thing in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And she moved into directing. Lots of TV.
She was fantastic as Marcy on Married with Children. She is so good in that. I wish she had done. I mean, she acted a lot. She didn't do enough. Really, like she was better than a lot of the roles she played. I wish she should have had at least more great television in her, because she was truly a standout on Married with Children. She was so good. She was like Ed O'Neill's equal on that. Like, oh, she's a legend. She's so good.
I mean, if she was around now, like when television is what it is now, like she would be unbelievable.
Oh yeah, she'd be Laurie Metcalf.
Yeah,
she'd be like she'd be huge.
Yeah,
I was trying to think of a good comp pull, and that's a good one. Yeah, she had her heart in directing, and she's still to this day did a ton of TV directing.
Yeah,
good for her. I like her. She's great.
Yeah.
I'm a big Married with Children. Married with Children was definitely in my sweet spot as a kid. I definitely watched a lot of Married with Children.
Yeah,
which also has problematicness to it.
Oh, it's super problematic. I mean,
at least they're all losing.
Most of the things that we watched growing up are super duper duper.
Well, this is why you can't, not to sidebar and get real with the kids right now, but like this is why you can't hold things to today's standards.
No,
you just can't. Like stuff came out in a different world, and like it's not fair to hold it to today's standards. You can watch something, think it's funny, think it's good, and still be like, yeah, but I'd never do that today. Like, yeah, it's okay to judge things by their own time. You know what I mean? Otherwise, every comedy that came out ever would be a no-go. So
absolutely.
It's I will die on that hill. Like you can't go back and read problematic things 30 years later.
No, you can't go and judge something by today's standards that was made 100 years ago.
Yeah, Shawn.
Yeah,
Shawn.
Yes,
Shawn.
I'm the problem with that.
Shawn, you've gotten away with this for far too long.
I die on that hill too because it's not that you can't cringe at stuff. It's not that you can't say, oh, that's not okay, but it is hard to, especially when the modern lens is changing so much quicker than ever before. Your stuff right now that we think might be passable is going to be not passable in a couple.
Oh, 100%.
Listen. 100%. Tropic Thunder is the funniest movie I have ever seen in my entire fucking life. Right. No one could ever make it.
And I'd argue Downey's blackface is like the fifth most troubling thing in that movie. There are other subtexts.
There's so many other things that are so problematic.
Yeah, there's other things that are even worse.
I watched that movie again recently.
One of the dark jokes in that movie.
My girlfriend had never seen Tropic Thunder, and we watched it, and she was like cackling like a crazy person. It also goes to show you that like. And I've always said this as far as like stand up and stuff like that. Nothing is really off limits as long as it's funny. If it's not funny, suddenly it becomes off limits. Like if you make people laugh, then you're probably okay. Tropic Thunder will probably always be okay because it's really, really funny. Yep. But if it wasn't, it'd be in big trouble. Yeah. It would have been in big trouble even then.
It also punches up and down at everything. Like 100%. Nothing's off limits. So it's not like one thing is the problem.
Yeah, it's
like,
not Dave Chappelle coming at like a specific group of people.
Exactly. Yeah. If the only thing in that movie was Downey doing the character, it'd be a much different issue. But they punch at everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The lowest hanging fruit. I mean,
that's like that's a minor part. That's a minor thing that they do. And
there's actual commentary on it. Like they do.
I would argue the funniest thing in that whole movie is McConaughey just trying to get Ben Stiller his TiVo.
Yeah.
The running gag of McConaughey trying to get Ben Stiller the TiVo is the most true depiction of an agent I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So good. Shawn, does Chris Sarandon join the Friend of the Show Hall of Fame?
He sure does.
By being in 2 different movies we've now done. With this,
yes, do we call this the Diane Wiest honorary?
Yeah, the Diane Wiest honorary friend of the show, joining such luminaries as Francis Lee McCain, John Lithgow, David Warner, Jonathan Hyde, Corey Feldman, Kevin Gage, and Robert De Niro.
Yes, we did talk with Chris Ball about The Princess Bride. He's a young gentleman who had never seen it, and we forgave him. So Chris Sarandon now popping up in 2 of our movies.
We forgave him.
I mean, that is one of the more. Danielle has even seen that movie. I'm just saying, Princess Bride is one of the more ubiquitous seen movies of people.
Danielle has even seen it.
Princess Bride, Scream, and Titanic are the 3 that we've done. Right.
But he's in his 20s, so like we're gonna start running into young people who have never seen.
I don't think he's in his 20s. I think he's in his 30s. But
listen, I'm trying to make it okay as to why he hasn't seen
if you haven't seen Titanic, you need to go to Sonic and get an ocean water.
I think that needs to be your catchphrase. Like in any situation, like when you get upset, you should just be like, here's what you need to do. You need to go to Sonic and get yourself an ocean water.
You know what you should do? You should get yourself to Sonic and go get an ocean water.
That should be your, anytime you need to sass somebody, that should be what you say.
Probably. I'm going to trademark it right now.
Do it.
Yeah.
So, Cameron, you like to bring this up on occasion. Any memorable line readings or memorable lines in general that stuck out to you in this one?
No? Question mark? I don't normally I am somebody who picks up on like the classic lines. I mean, the dialogue's great, but I don't remember there being one like standout.
No, it's not as catchphrasy as some of the other ones we've done.
No, especially for a movie that's like a quasi comedy from the 80s. It really doesn't have a lot of like memorable catchphrases and lines.
Jerry coming out at the end and saying "Welcome to Fright Night," and then like pausing for maybe 5 beats. I mean, like for real.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that was good. Like there's some Evil Ed said some hilarious shit, but none of it like there was no one thing that like stuck.
The only one that seems to be quoted often is, "Oh, you're so cool, Brewster."
Yeah.
That even got like the name. I think the name of the doc they made about this was that quote. But, yeah, Peter Vincent has a few. Oh, sorry, Danielle, go ahead.
I was going to say, I like it whenever Charlie's just like, look, I've got $8 and it's all yours if you can just help me. And I think Evil just says, oh, well, lucky me or something like that. Like that moment to me, I literally can't think of how that dialogue goes, but that moment is very, very
I think he says something like, well, far be it for me to not take an idiot's money or something like that.
Right. a fool's money or something like that.
Yeah, like that.
Exactly.
That whole interaction was just like, the $8 of it was hilarious.
The $8 was
not
the fun part.
Not I have a 20, not I have a 10.
No, I have $8
in singles. Like he was going to the strip club later.
Yeah, I'm like, where do you end up with $8?
And his help was basically just like, have you seen a vampire movie? You were watching one at the beginning, yet apparently know so little you're willing to pay a guy $8 to tell you what everyone already knows about vampires.
Yes, and not only just anyone, but Evil Ed.
Evil Ed. He said, surely Evil Ed knows. I'm going to his house. Also, like, I never really get the sense that they're like that close. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get, like, a lot of times when you watch, like, Monster Squad and stuff, and, like, there's the scene where Rudy stands up for the fat kid and stuff like that. You're like, oh, there's, like, in this one, it's just, like, they're friends because we told you they're friends, and we're not going to show it. Like, every interaction with them makes me think they don't even really like each other that much.
They don't know each other.
Yeah, I always took it as they were, like, on the outs, like, they've outgrown each other. Like, they're just...
But like nothing sets any of that up. They don't give us anything. It's just like a choose your own adventure novel.
Yeah, no, they used to make paper boats and float them down the fucking like curb. And like now they just aren't really close.
I mean, I'm here for that.
The remake plays on that too. I will say McLovin, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, plays the Evil Ed character in the remake, not to sway you away from watching it, Danielle.
Do you think he'll ever be called anything other than...
I just called him his full name out of respect, Christopher.
Yeah, after you called him McLovin. I'm not...
I had to give her the
judgment. I called him
give her the visual first. But they're kind of already on the outs, and that's established in the remake like right away. And it's a little clearer that Ed is the one that believes, they take it a little different in the remake, where this movie is much more the main character trying to convince everybody of what he knows. And then the other one it does escalate maybe a little faster. But again, it does some things better, including a thing that seems weirdly missing in this movie is that David Tennant's Peter Vincent actually has a connection to vampires in his youth. Like they allude that his parents were killed by him. That's why he's always secretly believed. While Roddy McDowall, in his slow to reaction throughout this movie, while he has all this stuff at his house, they never quite say like why he might also buy into it. But turns out it just took legitimately seeing like no reflection for him to finally believe.
Oh, speaking of no reflection, I really liked the shot, the way they did the Amanda Bierce dancing in the mirror by herself. I thought that turned out really well.
That was cool.
They did a really good job with that. I liked that. I will say, and I think we should bring, because I can already tell that Danielle's going to be a fan favorite. I think we should have Danielle back and do the 2011 Fright Night. Because I will go so far as to say I think it's better than this. Well, which is, this
I can't
good.
wait.
So that's not easy.
I'm going to miss Roddy McDowall. I'm just going to say that.
I mean, I miss Roddy McDowall in general, but
generally
I assume he's been dead for some time.
He's been dead for a little while.
Copy that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he is missed. R.I.P. Roddy McDowall. Tell us about the score.
I struggle with this, but yeah, I was gonna say, because I've seen both a few times now, and when I do watch them back to back, this one pulls me a little more. But there's a lot of nostalgia in that. But the updated one, I do think is very good. The score by Brad Fiedel was very synthy, as you I'm sure caught. He was coming right off the Terminator theme, and the soundtrack also legit. Tracks from Devo, J. Giles Band, Ian Hunter, and Sparks. Which
who did the song at the end? Because I should know this, but I love any time, and this is a great thing about the '80s, when movies have their own theme song that basically are just called like Fright Night. Like anytime a movie has like, who did the Fright Night song at the end? Because that was a banger.
We talked about it on the Monster Squad episode because it had a theme too. It was like, they're the Monster Squad, the Ninja Turtles song.
I love it.
That was a J. Giles Band track.
Was J. Giles Band. Okay, great. Yeah. No, I'm here for that. I do like J. Giles Band, so that does check out.
Freeze frame.
I can't think of J. Giles Band without thinking of
Centerfold.
Well, yes, but I mean, what's the Wedding Singer? Without thinking of the Wedding Singer.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which is another movie that I love. Yes. So, Shawn, I'm looking at our doc, and the only thing we haven't talked about is there was a new novelization of Fright Night that you have put in here.
Oh, yes, sir, when I was talking about the remakes and sequels. So Tom Holland himself, along with the co-writer Jack Ulrich, I got to go to Dark Delicacies in L.A. and go to their signing there. And so basically he wrote a new novelization that would be a true sequel instead of the Fright Night 2 that ended up happening as the movie. He's trying to launch it again. The novel's a planned trilogy of books that would expand the universe. So we'll see if he can get it off the ground. Again, I do think there's value in the IP. It's funny, despite Fright Night 2 getting buried years ago, as soon as the Colin Farrell movie came out, they immediately did another directed-video, Fright Night 2, The New Blood, which much like those Lost Boys, The Tribe, those things just got buried instantly. No one's seen them.
Yeah.
It's a shame because there was a good, well-done sequel to the 2011 Fright Night would have been really interesting.
Instead, they went right to the DTV versions.
Yeah.
That is a shame.
There was a question that I was asked. I don't even remember when or where, but they were like, what franchise or IP would you like to see like remade or redone? And I feel like Fright Night is one of them. Yeah.
You're in for luck because it's been redone and you haven't seen it yet. So we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Half of our latter half of these episodes I've recorded with Cam has been Cam coaxing the guest to come back for something else. So I think we're lucky to win for Fright Night 2011.
Yeah.
I'll come back.
We'll do a mini-sode like we did with Alex Square.
Nah, it's going to be another full.
It's going to be a full.
It's going to be another full one.
I mean,
I don't know. We did cover a little bit. No, we can make a meal out of that one. It can be 30 minutes or something.
We in the new Netflix era, anything can be as long as it wants to be. We're bound by nothing now.
We are bound by literally nothing.
Literally.
So Danielle, it sounds like we didn't waste your time. You were actually kind of on board and with all the 80s-ness and the cheese and the sleaze.
Oh, yeah.
The things we don't get these days in movies, these sexless modern movies.
Oh, yeah. I loved it. All of it.
So much so that you're going to watch the remake. Okay, cool.
I mean, so much so that I watched it twice and then I'm going to watch the remake. So.
Wow.
Well, hang tight because Cameron sounds like he's contractually locking you into something. So
it sounds like
fast.
Yeah, the contract's in your email, Danielle. You can.
I know
we're gonna double
I know that
your
you
payment.
Already forged my signature. It's fine.
We're going to double your payment on this one. So
sick.
Shit, they're on to us. Forge everybody's name.
Yeah, that's right. Wait, contracts? What are those?
2 cents. I mean, yeah, I feel like I need to catch up on like other 80s movies as well after the Fright Night 2011. So
what are those blind spot 80s movies? What haven't you seen that you want to see?
I don't know. Start listing some. I don't know.
So segueing into our questions we're going to ask anyway in the wrap up. So is there a larger genre that you would consider a blind spot, like Westerns or period movies or giallo or foreign films or anything you're not well versed on?
I'm definitely versed on Westerns. I don't know. There's definitely blind spots that I have, but I don't know if there's like a full genre.
Well, you did mention vampire movies, so just to rattle off a few, did you ever see Near Dark?
No.
That's a Catherine Bigelow one with Bill Paxton that's worth watching. What about The Hunger?
No.
With Susan Sarandon. I would recommend that one too. That was early Tony Scott vampire 80s movie. They all kind of have a different 80s chic and vibe and aesthetic to them, which is interesting. Kim, we always mention like Let the Right One In. That's a great one.
I saw that one.
Surely She's Seen. I was just surely she's
but 80s wise, I mean,
Lost
early 90s.
Boys, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
I mean,
I assume you've seen those.
I feel like I've seen a lot of 70s horror and not a lot of 80s horror.
And I will always go to bat for Coppola's Dracula. I adore that movie.
Well, yeah.
Warts and all. Keanu and all.
100.
Have you seen What We Do in the Shadows, the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
So
you're
good.
doing okay.
Yeah,
then our homework post Fright Night 2011 might be Near Dark and The Hunger, if nothing else.
Interview with a Vampire?
Yes.
Right, yeah, you're doing
obviously.
We've already talked about your love of Twilight. Blade?
Yes.
Cam's just like looking at a list now. He's like 30 days.
I am going down a list, actually.
Ganja and Hess. She said she's seen the older stuff.
Dracula Dead and Loving It?
What?
The Leslie Nielsen spoof of the Coppola Dracula?
Yeah, no, I've just run out of stuff.
Leslie Nielsen, my lord.
That guy's the best.
He's something.
You don't like Leslie Nielsen?
Oh no, I love Leslie Nielsen.
Oh, okay.
If you were looking at your screen, she was clearly being
sorry, I was looking at my
referential
list.
to him.
I was looking at my list, and From Dusk Till Dawn was on there, and I was going to bring that up, but then we started talking about Leslie Nielsen.
All right. Well, you've rattled it off enough, I think. Danielle, we thank you, one, for watching it. We thank you for spending time with us to talk about it. Do you have anything you'd like to plug or promote, or any kind of website or social to direct folks to, if you so desire or choose?
I'm so terrible at this. I have a website. It's DanielleEvonPloeger.com. It's on my socials, which is I have an Instagram, which you can find under Danielle Evon. And yeah, I have a movie called Rats coming out in February of next year. And there's a couple more screenings that'll be happening. One in Houston on November 16th, and I think one more that we're trying to organize in my hometown, which will be terrifying. And
wait, your hometown of Austin, or your hometown of like wherever?
Hometown of Gonzales, Texas.
Gonzales, Texas.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
No,
are you like on the sign? Is it like home of Danielle Ploeger?
It's like, I don't know what it is. But it's definitely not like home of Danielle Ploeger. It's definitely like where the Come and Take It flag came from.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's going to beat out any kind of fun little placard as you enter town.
Oh, yeah. No.
Well, it sounds great.
It's where the first shot for Texas independence was fired. Yeah. So it's like, I'm not going to be able to ever beat that.
Yeah, that's a tough break. Well, I will say I have seen Rats, and it is excellent, and you are excellent in it. And I think the world should go see it. It'll be, as Danielle says, playing a couple festivals soon, but it is going to be coming out wider at some point. I don't have a magic answer for when that is, but you should find it because it is awesome.
We'll tag the website and all the things Danielle mentioned in our show notes at paperstreetpodcast.com on the episode page, including Rats the film, or whatever the site and the socials are for that. So Max will update accordingly. I know he's mentioned early 2025. It'll also be playing in Los Angeles for a short run. So we'll keep folks up to date.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys.
Don't forget to thank us in your Oscar speech.
Hey, I will. For all of these podcasts and vampire movies that we're about to blow through.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Everyone come back for Danielle's weekly Talking About Vampires episodes.
Go get yourself an ocean water.
From Sonic.
She is throwing down the gauntlet. All right. Thank you so much, Danielle. I appreciate you putting up with our shenanigans.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to the next one.
Bye, Danielle. Thank you.
Take care.
Now hungry for a corn dog.
Yeah, let's go to Sonic.
Our thanks again to Danielle Ploeger. Glad she took to Fright Night pretty well. Seems like Cameron has forced her or politely asked her to join us again.
Don't worry about the how. She'll be back.
Which, again, one of the better remakes. I really do think it's up there, and it should be considered one of the better ones.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody could not at least think the 2011 version is a solid horror film. Like, there's just no way around that. It's very good. It hits all the right beats. Like, whether it's better than the original, people can fight about, but anybody, like, I can't imagine people just wholly not liking it.
Indeed. And this was a 1985 film. This was the year of, I'm sure if we listed the top 50 highest grossing movies of the year, you'd know every single one of them. But box office for Fright Night, we'll do a little by the numbers rundown on the way out here. The film made $6 million and change opening weekend and 1,500 theaters. And domestic gross came to $24 million and performed better than any horror film released that summer, second only to A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
I see from our list of movies here that it didn't quite make as much money as Police Academy 2, The First Assignment, which is a real shame. Yeah, Police Academy. People forget that Police Academy was a box office smash, man. Those movies did really well for a long time.
And if you tell me the sequel is going to be Their First Assignment, I'm there.
That's true. I do kind of love that.
Wait, Bobcat Goldthwait's now a cop?
What?
Yeah. No, Back to the Future certainly dominated that year. It made nearly $200 million domestic and over $200 million worldwide. But yeah, Beverly Hills Cop, Rambo, First Blood Part 2, Rocky 4, Cocoon, Witness, The Goonies, Police Academy, Fletch.
What is it with these names? What is it with First Blood Part 2, Police Academy 2, The First Assignment? What is it with like number 2, the number 1? A couple of weirdly named movies in this top 15.
If you scroll down a few clicks, you get to number 32, Fright Night, with a 24 million, almost 25 million haul at the time. But yeah, not bad. And certainly it gets called a cult movie a lot nowadays because as much as it, is known and the franchise is known as an IP and whatnot, you don't hear it talked about nearly as much as you hear things like The Lost Boys talked about. It's weird how much younger people find The Lost Boys and latch onto that one. I think they're almost on par as movies in general. Fright Night might be a little more fleshed out in the third act and stuff like that.
How dare you?
I love both. No, I like both of them very much. Again, they're both part of my childhood. But yeah, I mean, there's reasons we've talked about that, like why it sort of got buried. The sequels got buried for various reasons. Mm-hmm. Literally buried in the grave with Jose and his wife. No, I'm kidding. I'm just trying to be flippant now because Cameron took a lot of heat when he said there's people in the submersible on the Titanic.
Don't put this back on me. You're the one who's in trouble now.
He said some things that were a little incendiary, so I'm just trying to take the heat and for no reason at all.
In trouble now from the internet.
Talk smack about a poor dead couple, but
you're getting canceled.
Outside of box office, a little bit more by the numbers bits. Some of the internet rankings, I know we did this with Hoosiers on sports movies, but when it came to rankings, there's a bunch of them online. It was left out of IndieWire's 22 best vampire movies. It was number 50 in Pace Magazine's 100 best vampire movies. The Wrap just put 23 out without a ranking, so it was among those. Number 14 on Entertainment Weekly's 32 best vamp movies. Number 7 in MovieWeb's 25 best vamp movies. Number 7 in Collider's 10 best vampire movies. So
look, we've discussed that you like this movie more than I do, but I think we can all agree that being left off IndieWire's list and being number 50 on Pace Magazine's list, both of those guys have their heads up their asses. Like those lists, I guarantee you, are just loaded with art housey nonsense. I know.
I looked at IndieWire's and Danielle's favorite movie, Twilight, was one of the 22.
Really?
Yeah.
And not this. Wow. That's a choice. That's a choice.
They like the clickbait. They like the hate.
Yeah, so they sure do. Look, I don't hate Twilight. Like I don't hate Twilight as much as a lot of people do. I don't dislike. Or I don't love this movie as much as other people do, but I can't put Twilight ahead of this movie.
No.
I just can't do it. I can't get there.
Hey, as we talked about, shredded jorts. You can't do it.
They can't do it.
Hello, try that again.
Roger Degers.
Robert Ebert. Just made me do Robert.
Take 3. Take 3. Keep that in. Yeah. We're not cutting that. That's good stuff.
Roger Ebert famously gave this 3 out of 4 stars, and his quote that kind of stuck around was, "Fright Night is not a distinguished movie, but it has a lot of fun being undistinguished." So I think that's fair.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. Roger's on the right side of history on this one.
He wasn't always. Especially with horror, as we know.
No, he was not. No, he's a bit of a mixed bag on horror.
He was. Again, we love him for being a good film ambassador more than necessarily a critic, which I did not agree with him.
Well, also, critics are you're never gonna hit them all out of the park. Like you're gonna be wrong sometimes if that's what you do as a job. So, as long as you're right more than you're wrong and you're doing it with, you're trying to be a good film ambassador. That's all that really matters. Right. Rest in peace, Rod.
He, like Danielle, was delighted by Roddy McDowell's performance in this, so he knew what was good. Anyway, Fright Night, 1985. We were able to watch it on HBO Max, aka Max these days. But if you haven't seen it, look for it. It's a fun one. And then come back and watch the show. Why the hell did you listen this whole hour if you hadn't seen it? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, that was weird.
No, we appreciate you tuning in as always. This has been a presentation of the Paper Street Podcast. Thank you again to Danielle Ploeger, who was late to the party, but we're very glad she made it. For Mr. Cameron Burns, I am Shawn Talley. Thank you for listening to this nonsense, and don't be late to the party.
Bye, guys.
What would you do if you accidentally discovered the house next door was occupied by something not human? Something horrifying. Something unspeakably evil. No one believes you.
Mom, I didn't have a nightmare.
Not your mom.
They did kill a girl over there.
Not your girlfriend.
Charlie, is this some sort of a trick to get me back?
Not even the police.
Look, I know it's crazy. I know that, but look, Lieutenant!
It knows that you know. You'll do anything to protect yourself, but it will do anything to protect its secret. Fright Night. If you love being scared, this could be the night of your life.
You need to go to Sonic and get an ocean water.